Hello, hello. Welcome back from lunch, those of you who are back from lunch. We're going to go ahead and get started, and by getting started, we're first going to re-engage with our BLaw Forum app. If you've taken the opportunity to do a little chatting or a little work during your lunch break, that's great. Please go ahead and navigate back to blawforum.app in your browser, and that way you can continue networking using that app. You can also continue to ask questions of all of our panelists after every session. We'd also love for you to stay engaged on social media. So please feel free to continue to follow and post using the hashtag #LegalForum. And as a last reminder on logistics here for CLE credits, if you're interested in receiving those, please don't forget to sign in and out at the tablets by the escalators. So, moving right along to our next session, which is our Bloomberg Law Analyst session. Our team has selected a number of insights and analysis to share with you. However, we still encourage you to ask questions throughout the session, and our analysts will be happy to respond to as many as time permits. You might be wondering, what is a Bloomberg Law Analyst? And that's a good question, because it's still a relatively new group of subject matter experts on teams dedicated to sort of seeing around the corners and with how much momentum things are happening in litigation, the transactional space, regulatory and compliance issues, and then represented here today, legal operations and technology. With that, I'm delighted to introduce my colleagues who I've had the honor to work with in developing this year's survey, distilling its results, and applying the information to the actual practice of law in what can only be considered a transitioning market. Please welcome Molly Huie, Team Lead for Data Analysis and Surveys, and Meg McEvoy, Legal Analyst on the Legal Operations and Markets team. Thank you.
Thanks, Susie. Hey, thanks, Susie. All right, we are really happy to be here with you today, and I'm going to see if I can get this to work. Oh, yep, that's me and Meg. So we did a legal operations and technology survey, as Susie just said. Do you want to tell us why we did that?
Sure, yeah. So at Bloomberg Law, we have a mandate, as many of your organizations do, to be a more data-driven culture and to provide our subscribers with data and information that they're looking for. We knew that legal operations and technology is of great interest to our subscribers, which are mainly large law firm attorneys and in-house counsel, like many of yourselves. The legal industry is an interesting and challenging industry to cover. We're not talking about publicly traded organizations. To the extent that your organizations are publicly traded, you're not releasing information on the legal department in specific. And law firms, that side of the legal industry can also be very challenging to cover because they are selective about the information that they release about themselves. And so that we knew we needed to have more data and to create a baseline in terms of what's going on in legal operations and technology. And the way we do that on the Legal Ops and Markets team is to have a lot of conversations with people. And so to the extent that a survey was essentially a conversation with like 500 people.
500 of our closest friends.
Yeah, Molly will tell you a little bit more about how we went about this.
So that's what we did. We created a survey. There was a lot of collaboration between Meg's team with the legal operations and markets and my team for data analytics and surveys, as well as some outside collaborators, people that are currently working in-house in law firms, to make sure that we had a survey instrument that was broad enough to cover all the topics that are important in this emerging field and also relevant so that we get good data. What we got was nearly 500 attorneys, about a quarter of which were in-house.
Oh, and just quickly, I think Stephanie Corey and the rest of the legal ops panel really helped have this hit home for everybody. But what does legal ops and tech adoption have to do with government investigations? Essentially, it's just about having your ducks in a row. It's about preparedness.
It is. So this is a giant word cloud of lots of areas of law, and this represents all the nearly 500 people in our survey. So we asked them which areas they practiced in, and this is showing you that we've covered all our bases in terms of getting people into the survey that are representative of lots of areas of law. And something that's really cool about having nearly 500 people complete the survey, we didn't design the survey for this event. we designed the survey to be broad and baseline, but what we're able to do with having so many people in there is to slice and dice the data and have something really specific. So what we did was we looked at the quarter of respondents that were in-house, and then among those, we segmented it even further to look at areas that are deemed to be a little bit more compliance and investigations heavy. And so what you see on the screen is the areas that we picked out and said, if an attorney respondent selected that they were in this practice area, we're going to put them in the group that we analyzed specifically for this. So another point, one of the things on your tables today is a nice little 4-page brochure that was the executive summary of all the survey results. Some of the stuff we're going to show you today is a little bit different because that handout is representative of the entire survey sample. What we've got on our screens is really specific to you all.
Okay, let's talk about the data. So of our compliance-focused group, 95% of those respondents said that they have a legal operations function. And we just wanted to compare that stat quickly to you all's responses to the polling question earlier. I think 60% of you said that you have a legal operations function in your organization, which I think is great in the sense that this survey is really about providing you all with data to benchmark where you are against some of your peers. It's a curve, it's a journey toward mature legal operations. Everybody's somewhere on the curve, and so it's just about getting more information. We also asked who directs the legal operations function, and you can see that a little over half are citing this responsibility with the general counsel. Another 20% are with in-house counsel other than the GC. 23% are seeing that legal operations function have responsibility over directing legal operations. So it's a little bit slower in terms of getting actual legal operations professionals into an organization to direct legal ops.
Mm-hmm. Now, if we think about teams here, do you guys use multidisciplinary teams? Are you getting lots of different people together? Maybe, maybe not. Some of you. Well, from our survey, almost 9 in 10 people said that they do. They're using multidisciplinary teams for projects within their organization, and you're seeing the same usual suspects that are on these multidisciplinary teams: in-house counsel, general counsel, support staff, and legal ops. What we're not seeing so far on these are data scientists, law librarians, some of HR and IT. We asked people, and a handful of people said yes, but in thinking about a really mature process, perhaps those are some people that would be in the room. What would you think?
Knowledge management, like they talked about in the legal operation, and change management professionals.
For sure.
Yep.
Sure. What else?
So the legal operations function is diverse. I don't know if two organizations are necessarily doing it the exact same way. So we asked respondents, we gave them a multi-select of what functions are you citing within your legal operations function. So you can see that outside counsel management is a big one that legal ops is sort of taking off of the GC's plate to the extent that that's delegated. Law department strategy, having that kind of bird's eye view of everything that's going on in the legal department, contract management, and vendor management. A little lower down on the responses, we wanted to share a couple of stats with you in terms of functions that are related to government investigations response. So 4 in 10 respondents said that records management functions were up to legal operations, and about a third said that legal operations was overseeing e-discovery management.
Yeah. And just to kind of piggyback on something Meg just said is that, we did ask this as a multi-select, so, choose which of these 15 items your legal ops has responsibility for, and no two respondents would answer the same thing. Like they'd say, I'm gonna check A, B, and F, and you're gonna check B, C, and Z. So people are structuring their legal ops departments differently.
Yep.
And that's the bird's eye view of the legal ops part of the survey that we did. That's a kind of an easy benchmark for who's running it, what they're doing, what they have responsibility for. The second half of our survey focused on the use of legal technologies. And so one of the things we asked was, do you use any legal technologies? And as you can see, nearly everybody does. But a step beyond that was how are you developing, or how are you getting your technology? And so just over half, that teal box in the middle, saying that people both customize solutions off the shelf. So, maybe they get CRM software or billing software and they tweak it a little bit to fit their processes. but they also develop some of their own. So maybe they've got a homegrown API, or they've got something else that they've built that works just for them, or just for them and their clients, or internal clients. Kind of on the other sides, you've got a quarter of respondents that say they only use out-of-the-box, off-the-shelf technology. That they pick up a copy of Salesforce and use it as is. On the other side, another 20% say they only customize. So they'll get something, they'll tweak it, they're not doing any development, and they're not using it as is. When we look at the survey respondent pool in total, think back about kind of all those 500 people, there are a really small subset that say they only develop their own legal technologies, but that's law firm and particularly ones that are a little bit more niche.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so we wanted to do some audience participation. It's after lunch. Let's keep the blood flowing. If we could do a show of hands. I know we have a lot of general counsel in this room. A show of hands, how many in this room handle or oversee procurement of legal tech for their organizations? Show of hands.
Not bad. Maybe a quarter, a third-ish.
Okay.
That's actually pretty much in line with what we've got on the screen.
Okay.
It's spread out between all the usual suspects: in-house counsel, general counsel, procurement. The CIO gets a shot about 20% of the time. But there's not any one person that everybody points at and says, this is our legal procurement, tech procurement person.
Yep. And I do know, legal procurement is something that's becoming more formalized as a discipline. Susie Bokerman, our moderator, had a great piece on our Bloomberg Law Analysis channel this week about legal tech procurement and kind of how to cite that within your department and what the philosophy is. And so I think this also just shows that this is another thing that could potentially be taken off of the GC's plate and sort of moved and specialized and staffed as departments grow more mature.
Mm-hmm. So as we think about procuring technology for the company, there's a vetting process. It's important to make sure the tech you're getting is what you need and is going to work well and is. So we asked on a multi-select question, like, how do you go about vetting this technology? And as you can see, 80% say cost comparison in consideration with potential time savings. So we see this a lot with in-house counsel, it's about the money a lot of times. So, but once you get over that hurdle of, I'm gonna spend this much money on this technology product, a little lower down the list, checking for compatibilities with their other technologies. Because I find it hard to believe that anybody's using just one thing. They've got a system for billing, they've got a system for, matter management and document review. They have to play together. And actually 50% say that they take into account attorney requests. So I can think of a scenario in my head where, potentially an attorney moved from one office to, another company and said, hey, at my old firm or at my old company, we used this and it worked really well. Can we get that? And it seems like people are pretty open to that.
Sure. And I think it's a reflection too. The vetting of legal technology is just another thing that's becoming more formalized, more process optimized within organizations. Gone are the days when your GC goes to a legal conference and meets a vendor that they really gel with, and it's like, great, this is going to be our tech now. There are checklists. Legal tech vendors. But there are checklists. There are processes for deciding what you're going to integrate, and these numbers show that in-house departments know that they're taking this a little bit more seriously, and they're kind of running through the paces on their tech vetting.
Mm-hmm. So once we've vetted it, what's the valuation? Then how do they assess whether or not it's worth spending all that money? So again, the top response here is that it reduces time on routine tasks, and we all know that time is money. So both the vetting and the valuing kind of come back to, you're going to spend this money, and what you expect back out of it is that it will save your attorney's time, and in the long run will also reduce overall department costs and free up time so that your attorneys can do, more sophisticated attorney tasks.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, this is a really interesting piece. So first I want you to look at the donut on the right side that says 87% agree. What we did was we asked a series of questions and said, how strongly do you agree or disagree with a whole bunch of these statements? And so a statement we asked of outside counsel was, we asked of in-house counsel is, we expect our outside counsel to use appropriate legal technology to be more efficient. Almost like 87%. A lot of people agreed that that is an expectation they have. The donut on the left is the only stat we have in our slide that is not specific to the in-house counsel compliance group. And this was asked of law firms. And it says, our clients increasingly expect us to use technology. Only 73% agree with that. It's still a big number, but if you look at the gap between, we're talking about in-house counsel saying, yes, absolutely, we expect our outside counsel to be using technology. And those outside counsel in law firms going, yeah, we feel that pressure, kinda.
Yeah, and I think, in any client service environment, any sort of gap in these expectations is just something that we wanted to highlight. And I think it's just something to get on the same page with your outside counsel with. Make sure that this gap doesn't exist in your relationships.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we saw how many people are using legal tech. It was nearly everyone. So why? Why are we using legal technology? Top of the list, are we surprised? Price and cost effectiveness. And that technology provides a better workflow or work product than just doing it manually. Mm-hmm. So a little bit more audience participation on this one?
Yeah, so one of the things that I thought was interesting is that use of legal technology has become industry standard was relatively low in terms of why people would adopt legal tech. We just wanted to do a quick show of hands again. How many in the room think that use of legal tech in your organization has become the industry standard?
Yeah, ish, not quite. So some people yes, some people no.
Okay.
kind of in line with our survey results. So somebody in one of the panels before had said, it's augmented technology. It helps the attorneys do their job better, but it's not necessarily that you absolutely have to be using it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it also just reflects that we're on an adoption curve, and you made, this just reflects that we're all somewhere on that adoption curve, and maybe less far ahead than proponents of legal technology might think.
Correct. Yeah, and also it's telling you that if you haven't yet, you're not alone. You're not behind.
Right.
There's still, a lot of this stuff is still pretty new.
Yep.
It's nascent industry.
There's still time.
There's still time. All right, benefits. So if you're using it, what are the benefits that you see from legal technology? Number one, money, saving money, and investing in, being able to then invest in additional legal technologies, which will hopefully save you more money. Taking on additional work, because time is money, and also getting your junior attorneys to take on more work. But if you notice, these are all selected by about a quarter of people. Again, on one of those kind of select all that apply lists, so people were able to kind of say, well, this thing and this thing and this thing. But what's interesting, I'm going to talk about barriers to technology.
Yeah. So well over half are saying that even though people might acknowledge that they could save money or that they would be able to take on additional work if they adopted legal tech, that budget and the price of that legal tech is the top barrier to adopting it.
Which kind of presents an interesting catch-22, because if you're saying, well, I'm not going to adopt this technology because I don't have the money or I don't have the time, you look at the people that have adopted the technology and they say, guess what? It saves us money and time. But I think what happens is there's a little bit, or maybe a lot bit, of a lag in that, you have to invest the time and the money up front, and then there's kind of the learning curve period, or the, everybody's got to get used to it, and then you'll see the cost and time savings. Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it can feel hard to kind of like catch up with the train, though.
Yeah.
I mean, the train's moving.
Yes, yes, and you want to be on it.
Yeah.
So we asked kind of what areas is your legal tech most often applied? Again, this was a giant select all that apply list. And so what we're seeing is kind of every organization uses a different mix. So they'll use different software, they've optimized or used different things from a tech perspective, but e-discovery, records management, and document review are the top three, at least in this area, for use of legal technologies.
And then I have a couple of additional stats in terms of investigations, compliance-related functions. So trailing behind the top three, compliance and risk analytics are at 28%. So over a quarter of respondents said that they were using legal tech and compliance and risk analytics.
And that just kind of goes back to having your ducks all in a row. Like we talked about earlier and several other panelists did, that being ready for an investigation is having your stuff ready.
Knowing what's there.
Yeah, knowing what's there, where it is, how it can be used. Yeah. All right, this was one of our other polling questions from this morning. Are you using legal technology that employs AI or machine learning? And you all's responses was really very in line with what we had from our survey.
Yeah, so 15% of you said yes, you are using AI or machine learning. 57% of you said no, and 21% of you said not sure.
Yeah, which is really very close. So one of the things we've kind of examined in looking at this data are that, okay, there's 20% that say yes, great, you're good. The roughly 6 out of 10 people that say no, you're not, do we know? Are you using a technology that you're not sure is backed by AI? Because some people aren't really advertising what that is. Mm-hmm. And then there's a 20% that just go, who knows?
Yeah, and I wonder too if, I have been hearing recently that in-house departments and law firms to a certain extent feel like there is a gap between where the marketing is on legal technology tools and what the use cases actually are within their organizations. And so if you spend a lot of time reading about legal tech, so much of it is so cool. It's so cool to read about. And it's easy to get kind of caught up in look at all the things that it can do. But what we're seeing is that, again, organizations just aren't necessarily there in terms of adoption and really finding the applications for AI.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's even if it's cool, if you can't find a way to use it, or if you can't work it into your workflow, then yeah.
Yep.
So then we asked what people are looking to optimize. So in the coming year, what areas will you use legal technology to make better in your organization? Mm-hmm. So we've got kind of a quarter of people saying knowledge management and document review, records management, compliance, e-discovery. Those line up with the areas where legal tech is being used anyway. Interestingly, just over 20% say they don't plan to optimize any areas with new legal tech in the past 12 months. So, maybe those people are already at peak saturation for their tech, or maybe they're not at all. Either way is fine.
Sure, yeah, and I think e-discovery is definitely a more kind of mature market for legal technology, and so maybe just most of the people have already kind of optimized.
Right, so that's why e-discovery is down there. Yeah, and optimization can be a lengthy process, a really involved procedure, so there's not gonna be many organizations that will optimize probably more than one area at any one time. So, there we go. We would love to continue the conversation with you. We have a lot more data from this survey than what we've shared. And actually, if you look at the handout at your seats, that's some overall stuff. But we'd love to field any questions you have. We'll be around through networking and some other things. Please follow us on Twitter. We've got the what am I looking for? The web address, the URL for our analysis channel where we put out some really interesting pieces, Meg specifically, that I think is in your conference brochure.
Yeah, like I mentioned, so Susie had a piece this past week about legal procurement, and I had a piece using some stats from the survey about alternative fee arrangement adoption. Mm-hmm. So looking forward to doing some more writing and some more surveying in the future.
Great, thank you both. And we do already have some questions from the audience.
Sure.
So this first one was asked before you got to the AI slide.
Okay.
But I'm going to go ahead and ask it anyway, just as sort of a background question. But how do you define legal tech in this survey and in this conversation? And is it specific to AI or machine learning?
So that was one, when we designed the survey, we left specifically a little bit vague. Once respondents got down to asking about, are you using AI, that we kind of narrowed in. But when we first asked about legal tech, we left it broad because we wanted people to say, to tell us any tech they're using.
Yeah, I think we defined it as, are you using any technology that optimizes or automates an attorney's workflow? So pretty broad.
Great. And then in terms of the barriers, if being too busy to learn a new technology is a barrier, is it then incumbent on the vendor or the legal tech provider or developer to take that on and provide training?
Yes.
That's a really interesting question. Yeah, I would say yes,
say
because
yes.
I doubt anybody's going to do it themselves. It wasn't something we asked specifically, but yeah.
I would say absolutely yes, and that my understanding is that organizations have training and support as part of their vetting process and as part of their audit process for how legal tech is working for them. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And then this one is sort of specific to an area of optimization. Are you seeing law firms adopt accounts receivable platforms such as HeadNote to make accounts receivable process or the accounts receivable process more efficient and reduce payments lag time?
One of the areas that we asked about in what you're using tech for, what you're seeking to optimize, was billing, and that was a little bit more general. So I could give you specific numbers later about how many people said billing was something they were using tech for or they were planning to optimize. We didn't get into the specifics of accounts payable or receivable versus just kind of overall billing.
Right. Yeah.
Have you heard anything about those particular apps?
That particular, I haven't had a conversation where that has come up.
Great. Well, this has all been great feedback, and thank you for the audience questions for this one, and thank you to Molly and Meg. I wanted to reiterate, just because I was able to participate in the design of this survey with them, that they are both available, and I am available if you have any following questions. You can reach out to us on Twitter, and you can actually use the app. I am guilty of not actually going in and adding my LinkedIn profile yet because I can't remember my LinkedIn password.
There's an app for that.
But I will. And you can feel free to reach out to any of us via LinkedIn as well using the app. And we'll be attending the cocktail reception later. And so we're happy to talk to you further about all of this.
Yeah, and one of the things with, I said the URL is up for the analysis channel. Something that's new that we've done this year with the analyst groups and with my team in data and surveys is we designed this huge survey, and we're not going to put out one giant report that you can go to Bloomberg and buy. It's designed to feed lots of different analysis pieces and have data available for Meg and Susie and team to use all year long. So keep checking back throughout the rest of the year. There will be fresh data and stats from this survey appearing in analysis.
Great. Well, thank you both for your conversation today.
Thank you.
As we continue with our panel sessions this afternoon, I want to encourage you to continue speaking out on social media, continuing those discussions. You can use the hashtag #LegalForum, and we look forward to hearing from you and responding to you on all the various social media platforms. So our next conversation will continue the current trends discussion in business activities that are actually triggering these investigations. And I'd like to welcome our panelists to the stage. Jessica Null, partner at Farrell, Braun & Martel. Beth O'Callahan, vice president of legal at NetApp. Marianne Fogarty, senior legal director of compliance at Twitter. Wendy Weiss, senior managing director at Ankara. And Tina Huie, chief ethics and compliance officer at Stanford. Thank you all, and I'll turn it over to you, Tina.
Great.